Welcome to Bulletcast, a bullet catcher gaming podcast. Today's episode, we have a special going for our Christmas episode. And now, Andy, your host.
Thank you very much, Marcus. It's nice to be back. It's been a little while. New podcast. This is for the Christmas special. So if you are listening, Merry Christmas to you all. I don't say Happy Holidays. So if that's what you're expecting, sorry, wrong show. But no, Merry Christmas. Happy New Year to everybody. We have some special guests. Timberwolf is on with us today. Pistol Pete is also on with us today. And from the channel, we've got Sandylands. Of course, we have Marcus, the voice of the channel. We've got Gazden, we've got Hotheads, we've got Mad Mountain Pain, aka Testy's Man, and Iron Mike 1775. Hopefully you'll all kind of know everyone anyway, because it's most of the usual kind of crew. We're then going to make this one a little bit different. We're not going to talk about Breakpoint as such, or Wildlands, or Ghost Recon, though they may come up. We thought it might be interesting to have a discussion about some other shooters. Let's talk about some shooters that it doesn't have to be a military shooter. It could be something like The Division. It could be something old school, like I'm going to mention Time Splitters because, you know, when I was a kid, I used to love Time Splitters. We're just going to talk about general, which ones were great, why were they great? Get into it. If you want to get involved, you know, let us know what your favorite shooters are down in the comments below. We'd really like to know what you were into or what you like to play now. So let's kind of get it kicked off. I'm going to jump in with one of my favorite shooters personally of all time. Not the current Modern Warfare 2, though that is a good game. The original Modern Warfare 2. I think it's one of the greatest shooters ever. I liked it for all the kind of bullshit, for the online stuff. It was so toxic, but it made it fun. If you could survive one of those kind of, you know, one of the chat rooms in there, then you can survive anything. Some of it was brutal, but it was fun. Just enjoyed the game in general. It was just so entertaining. You know, the maps were legendary, the weapons were legendary. Some of the perks drove people crazy, but that's what made it interesting. Anyone else big fan of Modern Warfare? Would they put that in there? Anyone here put that in there? One of their top shooters ever, or not really?
The first Modern Warfare, not the second.
Well, the first one over the second. Okay, interesting.
This is going to come up with a shock. I mean, I don't classify as Call of Duty anywhere close to my top shooter games of all time.
I lost you a bit there, dude.
Yeah, I actually liked all three of the Modern Warfare originals.
Me too. I think the campaigns were kind of over the top, but they were fun. The stories were interesting. And where is the Modern Warfare 3 remake? It's well overdue.
Yeah.
I would put Modern Warfare 2, the recent one, up there with one of my top 10. Probably
The
won't
new
be
one.
number one.
The new one.
Yeah,
the
the
new
new
one's very, very good. It's still a bit buggy and glitchy, I think, in certain modes. But they'll get there. It's a new game, I'm sure. But overall, I think it's a good game. One thing I really do love about the new Modern Warfare 2 is I think they have absolutely nailed down the bullet sounds and the gun sounds are so good. You know, they do make when you go back into Breakpoint, the guns do sound really terrible in comparison, which is a shame. But you know, hopefully they'll get it right on the next one. But you know, Call of Duty. Anyone else? Would you say? You know, does anyone go for 2 more than the others? I think 2 resonates more with a lot of people. Not saying that the other 2 are not good.
I think it's because of Rust map.
Oh, it was a great map. Knife fights only.
Yeah.
We used to do knife fights only on that. That was so cool.
And they do have it on the new COD.
They do have it on there. No, that was a classic map, of course. Sandy, what was you going to say, dude?
No, I was just going to say, I enjoyed quite a lot of the old Modern Warfare games. I think most of them were good, probably to about Advanced Warfare. Was it Advanced or Infinite? It was when they started ridiculous.
Yeah, I think most people agree when they started adding the wall running, jetpacks, and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff is
See,
when
I
the
like-
games
I
started to go
really like
downhill.
Ghosts.
I liked. You know what? I liked Ghost, but it's hated, and I don't. I
think it's
do.
underrated. I'm gonna go and say it. I think it's underrated.
I actually like the maps. Like, what was the pirate ship map? That was fantastic, and yet people hate on that game so much. I didn't like the story. I was disappointed by the story. I thought the story was a bit boring, but I thought the multiplayer was decent. I thought the gun selection was decent. I wouldn't put it in one of my top shooters of all time, but I certainly don't think it's a bad game. I think there's far worse Call of Duties than that.
Yeah.
Liz, looking at you, Black Ops 4, because that was pants. I hated that game, but yeah, no, it's an
Black Ops
interesting.
3 and 4 is trash.
Yeah, Black Ops 2 was a great game. That is a really good shooter. I do think that for me, that's the best Black Ops 2, definitely, hands down. Actually, has anyone got any? So Call of Duty was always going to come up, to be fair, but has anyone got any obscure kind of shooters that they think
Yeah.
were
You heard of
yeah.
that? Eagle
jump
Eye?
in? Eagle Eye. Go on,
Yeah.
in case people haven't played it. Tell people a little bit about what it's about.
So it was kind of like a 007 American version type game on the GameCube back in the day, and it was very abstract and not realistic, but funny in terms of the type. It was like Splinter Cell meets Call of Duty, but in a two-person co-op game. The maps were like explosively fun. Helicopters crashing everywhere. It was just a lot of spyness with hectic firefights in between. It was awesome. Now the weapon selection, they had some really good gun recordings for the time that it was a game. It was a really, really interesting fact that because they had weapons that weren't really familiar with, modern U.S. military at the time were using in Afghanistan M4s, a lot of M16 variants, and you can customize them almost like you could in Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the newest one that just came out, not the second. And then how Ghost Recon Future Soldier, you can change the gas block system. You could do that in that game, which was surprising for a GameCube shooter.
Well, that's interesting that you mentioned Eagle Eye. When would anyone else put GoldenEye in their top shooters? Because it's always looked at as being one of the greatest shooters ever.
Yeah, but I'd go one better and say Perfect Dark. That's probably my all-time favorite.
Interesting. So that was quite an older game there. So tell people a little bit about what that was. I've played it before.
It's similar to GoldenEye, I guess, in that Nintendo 64 style kind of, setup. But I would say it's almost identical. You're fighting against, AI bots or whatever. But
yeah,
just the aesthetic of it, to me, I liked it better. But I wish I still had that, because I had a Nintendo 64, 007, and Perfect Dark, and a bunch of other games, and I gave it to a friend. Never seen it since. So I'm kind of nostalgic for it.
So
I'll
talking
go
of
old school.
Go on.
I got 3 of them that I would put in there to replace the ones that you just mentioned. One, Star Wars Battlefront from DICE and Lucas Games, not the EA. Okay. The other one would be Star Wars Dark Forces, and the other one would be Star Wars Bounty Hunter.
So what hang on, Mike. Just quickly. What you meant was the ones that weren't made by DICE. The 2 original Battlefronts. Yeah, they weren't DICE. They were Rebellion, weren't they? I believe. Rebellion. Was it Rebellion that made them? I'm sure it was.
It was Lucas Games, and
I'm sure
DICE came in, but freaking EA took over. So EA bought out DICE.
Yeah, no, I'm sure the original 2 were Rebellion, and then the last 2 were DICE and EA. Yeah, so the original 2, I absolutely wholeheartedly agree with you. If you're going on the old school, Battlefronts. They were absolutely amazing games.
And this is the reason why. Reason why I mentioned Star Wars Battlefront, the originals, is because one, you was able to somewhat customize your character in a way, a little bit different, which was ahead of its time, but did it differently than what Rainbow Six did and SOCOM, Desert Storm, all those guys, to include Ghost Recon, to include freaking Halos. They took it a step further. That's where they got the idea from, pretty much. Because freaking in Star Wars Dark Forces, you had a more in-depth story. But on Star Wars Battlefront and Star Wars Bounty Hunter, not only you was able to equip different items onto your character to do different things, like shoot your grappler, shoot your rocket, or jump a little higher, whatever the case may be, a different specialized gun, maybe a sniper or not, maybe even a toggle to where you can zoom in and zoom out, because I remember that one as well on Battlefront. But the thing is that the Star Wars Battlefront, what I liked about it wasn't just the customization that got me. What got me is that how long that and how much free roam, not only with your character, you can go. I mean, granted, yeah, you had some little bit of freaking out of bounds area that you couldn't cross, but the time frame where you can be in the vehicles and everything else, that's what sold me on it, and how versatile it was, and how much advanced it was ahead of its time. You know what I mean?
The ground-to-air combat in the original two Battlefronts was amazing, and they couldn't even replicate it
and how big the maps were.
Mm.
The maps were freaking huge. You know, and I mean, of its time, but granted, they're not open world like what Breakpoint is, but at the time, it was something that we've never seen.
Yeah, that
and the first person part of it, oh my god, I loved it.
The Hoth map was massive. Really,
yeah.
Yeah.
On the dark side, I always got into Walker. Then when I got the new one, oh man, I was so freaking disappointed. They only give you like 30 freaking goddamn seconds in that damn thing, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah. Go on, Marcus. You were going to jump in. Go for it. What was you going to go in with?
I'm going way back in Defender. Centipede.
Wow.
Yeah,
Asteroids.
I'm only going that far back. I'm only going to get back as far as I can remember.
Hey, you say it. Go back as far as I can remember.
See, Marcus, you've just disappointed me there, because I thought you were waiting for everyone to shut up so you could come in and tell everyone about how amazing SOCOM was.
Oh yeah, no, but we're talking about all time. I'm talking about, we're going just for that moment there. But yes, SOCOM is, it is one of, and Mike even brought it up. It's one of the games that I believe, if it was to say right now, come out and say we're going to be on the play box, everybody would buy it.
Well, supposedly it's going to get announced next year.
Well, they better hurry up so I can save money.
Yeah.
Well, there's something better than that.
Go on.
Star Fox.
Oh yeah.
I have one as my number one. I will blow you all away. It revolutionized shooter games to this day.
Well, to even go even further back, and I know a lot of the current games, you guys are going to hear this name, and it's going to be, oh yeah, that is good, but current one is probably not as good, but the original Battlefield.
Yeah, and to be fair, and I still think one of the most fun Battlefields they've ever made is still the Bad Companies.
Yep.
I'm talking about the one before that.
I know the one you mean, the original one, where you could jump between different characters.
Yeah. Oh, the one before that.
Set up to be a franchise. It was a standalone.
No, I'm talking about not the one that you jump between characters. The one before that, the original Battlefield 1, not the one that they remade.
The one that came out on on the first
That's what I'm
Xbox.
saying. The one
No,
that was
no.
the one that
referred
was
to.
meant to be a franchise.
No, not before
That was
Xbox.
meant to be
This
carried
was-
on. I mean, that was a standalone at the time when it came out. They meant for it to be a standalone. The original Battlefield one, like the original Battlefield.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, who said
Hello.
that?
But I'll tell you what, like, so my best shooter of all time, I have to think back to my childhood. And don't worry, Marcus. I mean, I'm not trying to make you feel old. But, so I'm gonna go back to my childhood here. 1993, Doom, the original Doom, first
Oh,
person
God,
shooter
yeah.
game,
Oh
Yep.
yeah.
developed by ID Software, Rage Games, and ran
It was
on the
strictly
original
for PC.
Doom engine on
Mhm.
PC. I
And
remember
do you,
I
rem-
was
and do you remember? Do you remember, Mads? The only way that you could play with one of your buddies was to literally have the game, the console, and two TVs, and you could hook them up together. And when you did it, it was like amazing.
Yeah.
So not to make not to make the audience feel like they're make them feel young or nothing. Yeah, I'm old. Okay, I guess you can say 35 is old. I guess, but 93 back. The only internet that I have is dial-up, and I remember dialing up to the internet on AOL so I can play this.
I think you're
game, and
using it now.
Yeah, and I dropped thousands of hours. And
Dang, Andy.
the game was originally meant to run really good for MSD. Well, I guess I want to say it's MSDOS. I think it is.
DOS.
It was originally meant to run for that. I guess that's dial up. I don't know. I'm not really familiar with the whole computer shtick, but I dropped thousands of hours in that game, and that's what made me really love like shooter games, because I grew up watching action movies. We all did, right? We all watched like Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, Sylvester Stallone movies, and this was the one game where you could actually get in and you had a first person view to hold this gun, and you go through the levels, and it was, you were rewarded by being a good player, pretty much. Like if you played the game and you took your time with it, you were rewarded for it. It wasn't any of this microtransaction stuff you see nowadays.
It was it was revolutionary, wasn't it?
Yes, it revolutionized first-person shooters games, and a lot of these developers now, man, I say it to this day, go back to what worked, because back then that shit worked. Where it wasn't pay to win.
Absolutely.
I tell you what was
Absolutely.
revolutionary as well, which I did wonder if someone would bring up. What about at least the first two, maybe three of these? What about the original Medal of Honor?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because they added
definitely.
for the first, when I played those for the first time when I was a kid, when I played those, I remember thinking, like, at the time it felt like you were in a movie.
It was
You know,
ahead of
like
its time.
the music
For
was
me, it was too
incredible.
linear.
If
I
you're
get that.
if you're talking movie, then now we're going to be talking Metal Gear Solid.
Oh yeah, it's got to be in there. Which is the best one
Yep.
though? Because I actually do think that the last one.
No.
is
I'm
good.
I'm just talking about like the very first one on the PlayStation, the Metal Gear Solid, where you
Oh,
had the
yes.
2-disc version.
Yeah. That was a classic. But though I do think Metal Gear Solid 5 was a near perfect game.
Can I
But
jump in?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Well, personally, my top one game ever for shooter is a game called Ready or Not. It's like a very
That's
tactical
current.
shooter.
That's current.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's his best shooter that he likes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
Nothing against it. I'm just saying that's a current game. So
You guys never said what time era it had to be from, so
No, you can have anything you want.
No, I'm not down with it.
I think he's not wrong.
Yeah, we're not.
Whoa.
He's not, for being a shooter, Ready or Not, Ground Branch, and Arma are way ahead of their time right now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not saying that it's bad. I mean, I personally have not had a chance to play Ready or Not. I would like to, but I don't have the 5, so I can't play it.
But kicking back to Andy, though, I will say this: Medal of Honor. When you mentioned that, at the time when that originally released, that was way ahead of its time. When you actually got to play that, you said it was like being in a movie. I remember playing it my first time, and I was blown away by the graphics, by the mechanics. It was like something that I believe to this day that. I'm not knocking any developer out there, but there's some games out there that are being released today that have almost the same graphics as that.
It's not far off of it. I just, the thing it's the music and going back to, and it's weird. We don't talk about music in games that often. Maybe it's because you've got to be interested in it, but I still think that the greatest soundtrack in any game ever in the history of gaming is still the original Modern Warfare 2. Hans Zimmer's score that he did for that, considering what a massive, big name composer he is.
He did all 3.
He didn't. He only did 2. He only did 2.
Are you talking about any video game or just shooter video games?
Just shooter video games. I think
so. That's got to be Splinter Cell and Halo Combat Evolved.
Oh no, it's for me. It's definitely Modern Warfare. But the guy who did Medal of Honor. He was very unknown at the time, and I forget his name. I'll think of it in a second. But he's huge now. He does. I think he did the last couple of Jurassic World movies and all that. And I think that was one of where he started out doing video game music. But that Medal of Honor music, especially, I think it was the first and second game. The second game was about the resistance, wasn't it? I've forgotten what it was called. But you played as a resistance fighter in France, I think. And I remember you went into the catacombs in France. That was amazing. Like that, the way that they built on that and the music. Just if you took that music out of that game and just added some generic gaming music that wasn't orchestral like that, I think the game just wouldn't have been the same. I think that's how important the music was to it. But I want to go back really quickly, Marcus. You were talking about SOCOM, and I've always thought that in my head there's always been a kind of mini battle almost between these two franchises, even though people would say they're not the same, and I agree they're not the same.
SOCOM and Halo.
I know. I was going to say what would win in a battle between SOCOM and Rainbow Six Vegas 1 and 2.
I would go with Rainbow Six Vegas 1 and 2.
Fan wise, probably SOCOM. Because
I think SOCOM's a bigger game, but it's hard because I enjoyed playing both of them. I preferred the single player element, I think, of SOCOM, but I enjoyed the multiplayer element of Rainbow Six more, I think. But you may disagree. You probably would disagree because I know
I played the crap out of SOCOM. I mean, I had it. It was the first online game that I had, and even though it was way late into the system, but it also introduced everybody to talking to everyone. Now, current day and time, it is just an open mic. But here, during SOCOM days, you had to actually use one of your controller buttons to talk. And then it was like, okay, you got to wait your turn. And that's what we need to go back to is have some type of controller button.
I tell you what, I wish we could go back to the customization that we had in Rainbow Six Vegas 1 and 2. Because this is what makes me laugh. Like the customization of your character in those games was insane. I mean, maybe I'm remembering it too fondly, but I remember being able to customize.
You had the camera. You can actually take a picture of your face with your camera on your system, and it would apply it to your character.
Yeah.
On Rainbow Six Vegas 2.
Yes, that's
and
true.
You got an achievement for it.
But just the customization itself, like you could change your breathing mask, all sorts of stuff. And yet now, they seem to, like on Breakpoint, for example, they only really, yes, they give you camos and stuff, but they've got this thing where it's, you can have a skin instead. It's like, I don't want a skin. I want to be able to customize every single part of it. It's still frustrating that you can't have shemagh with a hood or whatever. You know, all that nonsense. And it's
Yeah.
like, no, we don't need that.
Like, look at some of the things that they added on the custom skins, like Nox plate carrier, that you want to use that on its own.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you.
I'm gonna jump in here and I'm gonna just say this. I think if Ubisoft were to take Wildlands game mechanics and then take like Rainbow Six Vegas 2, take a picture of yourself and customize all that, it would make a great game.
Personally, we'd love to see them do like a Rainbow Six Vegas 3. You know, I would be happy if they came back and looked at that game again. Or they were remade, you know, a bit like some of the new Call of Duty or some of the old.
I will
older
die
Call of
on this
Duty.
hill. I will die on this hill. I think the CQC
Well,
mechanics
Well, you know
from
what?
Rainbow Six Vegas 2 could work still today. I will die on that hill.
I'm going to jump in quickly. And something Andy said there. Yes, I think we would all like to see like remakes of like the old Ghost Recons or the old Rainbow Sixes. But realistically, does any of you trust Ubisoft enough not to screw it up?
Probably not.
That's cool.
No, and that's why what you really want is,
That's my primary point, by the way.
whether people support Activision, don't support Activision, whatever, or they hate them, like them, whatever. The one thing that you know, apart from the minor few changes here and there, they did do a really good job of recreating those, the two original Call of Duty games. I think they did do a really nice job, and if someone could come in and literally do that with, you know, some of these other older games, it would be amazing. I mean, a game that I really enjoyed was the Conflict Desert Storm games, the first couple. These, to me, as when you know, once again, I was a kid when I played these, but when I was a kid, you didn't have the online element. So in your mind, you wanted a story to play out. And rather than have other people play with you in the same room or online, because you didn't have that, to me, I got to kind of
split screen.
Yeah, I got to create the story of my characters by jumping between those four. Was it that you could choose between SAS and Delta Force, couldn't you? But you could kind of. It was just great, the freedom that it allowed to put the sniper up on the hill, or to. Do you know what I mean? Like, I loved it. And when one of your teammates went down, like, I used to get total panic that, like, oh my God, I've got to go and get them up before they die, you know, and try and head back, and you'd end up coming out and a tank would turn up or whatever. Those games, like, I miss that type of gaming sometimes, where you know, like, why don't they make any games where you can swap between characters anymore? They just don't, do they?
No, they make the storyline of you being that character, and then that's when you swap. Not like how you're referring to, you hit a button and then next thing you know you're a different player.
They didn't do that with the last Watch Dogs.
Yeah, kind of like what ADUP was saying in reference to. I think that's what Rockstar Games did with GTA 5. You know, where they established a story for each character, and then they had that one character run into. Kind of like blend into the story to the next character you can continuously play as. But
well, I mean, even when they did the Call of Duty series, you know, you had 4 storylines inside of each game mode. So up until the recent Modern Warfare sections, but you would have like all of the World War II ones, or you would have one guy in the SAS, and then you'd have another guy in the First Armored Division, and then you'd have another guy probably on the German side, and in like the very first Call of Duty, the very first mission was Stalingrad. You get a rifle, you get a pistol, you get bullets. If the man in front of you dies, you pick up his rifle and you keep going. Everybody knows that from Enemy at the Gates. But that was the exact same thing, you know, and they said, okay, you're coming in on a boat, and here you are. You think you Vasily Sitsin, but you're not. You're actually somebody else.
Here's the thing, though.
You know what? One thing I'm curious about, and I'm going to ask Andy this. And Andy, I want to know what your thoughts is on this. I've already asked ADUP in the past over it. Me and him talked previously about it for a little bit, but going back to SOCOM. All right. For me personally, I feel like this whole, I'm not going to get into the whole, business aspect of everything that's going on between Microsoft and Activision and, whatever. I'm not going to go down that road. But I will say this. Considering that Microsoft, I will ask you this, Andy. Considering Microsoft has acquired Activision and acquired pretty much a well-known, renowned, very successful franchise, and do you think that Sony is going to hit the gas on trying to get this SOCOM game out? Do you think that they're feeling heat from all this? Because I'm hearing mixed things from both sides, saying that Call of Duty is by 2024 or 2025 or something like that they're trying to keep it solely exclusive to Xbox.
Okay, so without going off topic too much, just quickly on that, I would say this. I think if you look at it overall, there's no way, even if the acquisition goes through, I saw a video on this several months ago, maybe about 4 or 5 months ago, where someone broke this down beautifully. I have to try and find this video again. And they broke down the number of players that they, from all sorts of different data they got, the number of different players who make up the players playing Call of Duty. And 65% of all Call of Duty players are PlayStation players. There is absolutely no way, in a million years, that someone is going to come in and spend all of that money and then say to 65% of his customers, buy, because it would go down as the worst purchase in the history of purchases ever. It's just never, ever going to happen. And even Phil Spencer, just the other day, was saying, we have said to Sony that it will be staying on PlayStation for the long term. He said that we so I don't understand. I think there still will be issues with the acquisition. I don't understand. I mean, when it comes down to it, it's a hard one because I hate console fanboy wars stuff. I don't see the point of it. I always say if one of them went out of business, if Sony went out of business, Xbox would stop trying. If Xbox went out of business, Sony would stop trying. Do we really want that? No. So competition is good for us all. We don't need to if you don't like, there's games. I'm more of a PlayStation person than an Xbox person, but it doesn't mean to say I don't like Xbox. There's games on PlayStation that I don't like. They don't interest me in the slightest. There's games on they're Xbox exclusive that don't interest me in the slightest, and there's games on PC that don't interest me on the slightest. It's just personal preference of what you like to play, and it's just as simple as that. I mean, I have liked some PlayStation exclusive over the years, like Uncharted and things like that. I used to love MotorStorm. I thought it was still my favorite racing game of all time. But that doesn't mean to say there's not great games. I mean, no one's mentioned Halo yet in terms of a shooter, but, because obviously it's a legendary shooter. Yeah. It's a legendary game, and for good reason. But I just think it's going to end up being, if they buy it, they're not going to eliminate 65% of their player base. Can you imagine the amount of money that would be lost? It would be unreal.
And the only question I would have with that really is because a lot of these, I'm not saying that developers are greedy, or
they are
some developers are, but I will say like Microsoft, okay, maybe long-term goal. You already said Phil Spencer already came out and said that it's going to be on Sony, which is great. But playing devil's advocate, say like he didn't say that, I can totally see nowadays, like in today's world, where a company will actually come out and say, you know what, yeah, it's going to be exclusively for this console, because they're going to try to press and make people jump over for their favorite game. to buy their merchandise, to buy their product.
So
And I completely,
the interesting thing with this purchase is if it goes through, it would make Xbox the third biggest gaming company in the world, which is what the competition committee is saying. Hang on, that could be dangerous because it's going to make them this giant, more of a giant conglomerate than they already are. But it's going to make them the third. Sony is the first. So to be honest with you, I don't really understand how I don't necessarily know that, because we've not seen their argument in writing or anything like that. It's all speculation that they're saying, this isn't fair or whatever. They're obviously worried about losing that customer base, which I can kind of understand to a degree. But now they've said they're not going anywhere. I don't really see what the problem is, to be honest. If they want to buy it, let them buy it. It makes them the third. Sony are the first. So it almost sounds like that it's just worrying about that they're getting bigger. And, Sony are buying studios too. They've bought loads of studios over the last few years. They bought Bungie recently. And whether we like it or not, I mean, no one's mentioned Destiny on the shooters list at the moment. But
I hate Destiny.
But there's a lot of Destiny. There's a lot of Destiny
Yeah.
players. There are a lot of Destiny players out there, and if they're working on a new one, which supposedly they are,
It reminds me of Fortnite without the hazardous cloud closing in on you. That's what it reminds me of.
well, do you know what? As we're talking about, console wars as such, even though I think they're stupid, I will mention a game shoot which I genuinely love, and I still love it, which I always found it was one that really did flame the fanboy flames, and that was the Killzone franchise. I really like, and I know some Sony players that don't like Killzone. So it's not just, if you like Sony, you like Killzone. I don't think that's true at all. I liked it because I liked the kind of dark aesthetic of it. I thought I quite liked the story. I thought the weapons were interesting. The villains were really interesting. And the one thing that I think that Killzone did really well, which it still does better than most games today, is that the enemy AI, I always thought was really good, especially in Killzone 2. I thought the enemy AI was superb in Killzone 2. Better than Breakpoint now, a lot of recent games, way better. And to be honest, another franchise that I was going to mention, which did AI even better than Killzone, which I still believe it's the best AI I've ever played against in any game, and that is Fear, First Encounter, Assault Recon, the trilogy, all three games. Does anyone play Fear? A mixture of horror and first-person shooter, and the AI in that game was just off the rails. It was so challenging. They would flank you, jump through windows. That as soon as you pushed up, you'd suddenly go, "Where is everyone kind of gone? There's not many people coming at me." That's because they were all trying to find ways to get behind you, but not in front of your face. They were using corridors. They were climbing over walls. But they were trying to get behind you to kill you. And I personally think that is such an underrated first-person shooter. Fear was so good. Did anyone play Fear?
Well, speaking of underrated, one of the games I noticed about one of the other games that I liked as a shooter game made by Guerrilla Games back in 2004 now is Shell Shock Vietnam 67.
That is a good game.
It was a linear game. Granted, it was a linear game, but the AI was on your shit all the time. Like, excuse my language, but they flanked you. They had like the enemy positioning, and you really couldn't even tell if they were spawning because it seemed like they were just kind of like coming down below the hills. It felt genuine. It felt real. And it was a game that you can cycle between third person and first person. And I always played it through third person because I just thought that the graphics were amazing. But I mean, you pretty much go through the whole Vietnam War as this one soldier, and they tell this certain tale during the game, and it was just the mechanics of it were so smooth. Mike, I mean, I'm sure you heard of it. I'm sure Andy,
Yeah, I
you heard of
played
it.
it. I
Yeah,
played it.
Matt, do you feel that the Vietnam genre is just underrepresented? We don't get enough Vietnam games, do we? And I remember talking back
Oh, man.
earlier when I mentioned
Listen.
the conflict games. I think the third one was Vietnam, and to me, it didn't work. It worked really well in Iraq, but not in Vietnam.
Well,
They
guys,
didn't have the technical support. Is the reason why it failed.
So I will tell you this much right now.
well,
When
guys,
I
I have to say
think of
something real quick. I
You
have
go
to
ahead.
go. I have to go. So it's been fun, but I have to go now. So see y'all later.
Thanks for joining us, Pete.
man.
Take care.
Hey, take care, buddy. We'll jump on DMZ here for the months out. All right.
Roger that.
All right, buddy. Take
Take
care
care,
of
bud.
yourself. Be good to your mom.
I will.
All right.
Let's
So,
go through all those tissues. Right, let's go.
so I would say this, like all of you guys here who are here in chat, everyone in the audience, when you think of a soldier, there's only a couple eras that you think of, and really the ones that stand out as being like this badass USA American soldier. For me, it's the Vietnam. Like the Vietnam era around that time was like the Hard Knocks. Was very brutal, very bloody, and I really think that they should start doing more games setting around that era because I think it will do very well. Considering, I mean, we've seen so many games being released out on other by other developers covering World War II. Like,
Yeah,
okay,
overdone.
it gets exhausting. So do like Vietnam. Make people build a game around what it's like to be in the shit. You know, and that when you think of Vietnam, that's exactly what it is.
Tell you what though, talking of World War II, Brothers in Arms, that was a good World War II game.
Well, I was going to jump in there for a second and suggest something. Well, there's certain genres who always talk about World War II is all overdone to death. Vietnam's not covered enough. But what if we went to different time? What if we started seeing developers do different conflicts? Korea, do you know what I mean? Panama. I'd like to see more stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Panama has already been covered. It was covered by Medal of Honor Tier 1.
Do you know what I mean? Just like
because you ran into Noriega in there, and that was right at the beginning of his height and why we went down there to take him out. Or actually, not really to take him out, there to arrest him.
But that's what I mean, though. Like just different conflicts that have happened that just never get covered.
Mm-hmm.
Korea's always mentioned as the forgotten war.
Yeah.
I tell you what's interesting. You're saying about different kind of conflicts. We of the games that have been mentioned so far, I've noticed that a lot of them are based on at least some form of real world. Okay, not Killzone, not Halo. We haven't really talked about. Has anyone got any games that are more kind of futuristic or games that are set in the future? All right, I mentioned Fear, which obviously it's a realistic situation in a supernatural environment. But has anyone? What about more of a kind of futuristic kind of shooter? Because I was going to mention. Go on, dude.
Right there.
I can throw one down, but it's not going to be my choice for the favorite. I've got a few things to go over within. All right, as per usual, Wanderer or Timber, whichever you want to refer to me as, has multiple answers to a very simple question. So I'm going to start with the main question. What is your favorite shooter? I'm going to go with the childhood answer because this is my first big entrance or exposure to an FPS game, which was the original COD Black Ops. Like the first one.
I hated that game.
everyone has the right to their own opinion, Andy. I will not argue with you. I understand how you
Oh
feel.
no, I wasn't putting you down for your opinion, because one of my favorite games ever is Time Splitters, and I know lots of people hate that kind of stuff, but I like
Andy, how could you? I'm joking.
insanity. I like the insanity of it. I liked, my favorite character in Time Splitters was a deer, like a butchered deer that was been taken off of and mounted on a wall and was running around with 2 shotguns in his hand.
Do you know what, Andy?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm surprised hasn't been mentioned
Go on.
at all? Resident Evil.
Yeah, I understand why.
As a shooter.
It's a shooter.
I hate to say it, I'm one of those people. I like the second game more. Sorry.
Well, I mean,
like
we were talking about this earlier about people doing remakes correctly, and you have to turn around and say that.
Fred, come here. Get upstairs.
Timborf, can you just mute when you're shouting stuff, because it's coming down the mic?
That was my dad. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
He started before I could react.
Sorry. No worries. But yeah, they have been doing a good job with their remakes, to be fair. They've been doing a decent job. Like I said, there is definitely I'm not into Final Fantasy and stuff like that, and it doesn't really belong in this conversation and just such. But, I know that everyone raves about Final Fantasy VII, and how long have they been remaking that for? Years now, I think.
I guess I'll throw down the most stereotypical answer in history. At least one that I think deserves to go on the list. Resident Evil 4.
Do you know what? I actually really enjoyed the new one. I thought the village was good.
Yeah.
I remember the Resident Evil games where you actually had to buy like the strategy guide at the store to actually beat, because there's no way you could figure it out.
That's true. Those first couple of games were really, really difficult. Do you know what? No one's mentioned either. Which was on, especially in the same era as Resident Evil. No one's mentioned Tomb Raider. Was that anyone's forte, especially those early ones?
Warcraft 1 and 2.
Yep, same here.
Yeah, I mean they were.
Oh yes.
I'm not a puzzles man. I don't know about anyone else. I
wasn't too fond of that, but I don't know. It was something about the eye candy a little bit on the digital form. I didn't see anything like that before. And next thing you know, she came out the water, and I was like,
"You dirtbag!"
I'm gonna tell you, Roy. What made me quit playing Tomb Raider was I couldn't kill that damn tiger in the very first one. On the original
I've got another one to.
There's a trick to it, buddy.
I got another one to throw in. This is also one that I played. It's probably not my favorite from the series, but I won't say it was a bad game. The original Gears of War.
I like Gears of War 3 better than I did the rest of them.
GOW3 is also my favorite, hands down, of the series.
Gears of War 1 was fucking fun as hell. I love Gears of War. I will say, another game that I like to play, and it's free on PlayStation Network. I think it's called Blackout. I'm pretty sure that's the name of it. But I like playing Blackout. I mean, it's an FPS shooter, but it's kind of like futuristic.
There on the front with a bunch of freaking brass and everything.
Yeah, like that game right there is pretty fun too. I would recommend anyone to try that game out at least once.
That game, what was that game, Mad, on PS3 called? Was it just called? I don't think it was just on PS3, but was it just called Black?
Yeah,
does anyone remember? That was a decent game. Is it the same thing?
Mm-hmm.
I've got that on my card.
Basically the same thing.
That was a good game. That was a really good game.
You can get Blackout for free on the PlayStation Network. I mean, of course, there's in-store purchases and stuff like that, but I would almost say, like, at least try it out once and see how you like it. Because, I mean, we hear about all of, like, the major Fortnite game, the Fortnites and the Apexes, and there's a lot of games out there on the PlayStation Network that's free right now. There are shooters that are actually worth playing. I mean, I know Warhammer. I think Warhammer's free. I mean, I don't think that's technically shooter. I mean, I guess it is.
I
in a way.
mean, if we're really gonna go down that route,
It's a first person MMO.
yes and no.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying too. It's kind of like it's a back and forth with that one.
Ooh, I've got one, and it's a bit more fucking obscure. Red
Go.
Alert Renegades.
Ah,
I've never played that.
Now that went against everything Red Alert ever done. Like everything else, everything you remember Red Alert for was a strategy game. Yeah, it was always strategy. It was always the map-based stuff. Renegades was the only one they'd done that was like an actual shooter.
yep.
I don't think
He was
I've ever
fighting
played
against the Russians. The Russians was taking over the United States.
What was the Tom Clancy game that was the kind of tactical thing where you had to move the vehicles around?
You're talking
and
about
stuff like
in-game.
that?
Tom Clancy's
Yes.
in-game.
Yes, that was superb.
I
Really enjoyed-
hated that. God,
I actually played the
Oh my
the
I
demo.
loved it.
I played the demo
hated
for
it.
so long that when I finally got the game, it took forever to finish. But I always just kept
hated it
playing
so
the
much,
demo.
I broke the damn disc. I shattered it.
I enjoyed that big time. Really enjoyed that. I tell you what, I've got another one. I don't know if it was on. Now, obviously, it was on multiple platforms, but I was on PlayStation at the time. I can't remember. It was either PlayStation 1 or 2, and it was called, if anyone has ever heard of this, but I loved it. And once again, it created a really good atmosphere, which I always like in a game. And it was called Freedom Fighters. Does anyone ever remember
I played that, and I even used the. I started videoing into that because it had a hell of a cutscene for his speech.
Yes, and when you got to, is it towards the end of the game when it was snowing and you were trying to take back New York?
I think that was like
what was
the
story?
very.
Was it
The Russians did take over.
The Russians took over. Was it America or just New York?
It took over America because it had you going all over. It had you. You had to take over. You had to take New York first, and then it bounced you around to other cities.
That's right. You're right. Yeah, that was. But I loved that game. Oh, it was a brilliant game. We just don't get, so many interesting games like that. But another one. Did anyone play? What about Max Payne? Because I think it was Max Payne 2. I really enjoyed that game.
I played that too. I think that's where Mad Max has got his name from.
Yeah, okay. Well, the only thing that bugged me about that is that you just get into some good action. It had the slow motion, all that kind of stuff. And then they would have some weird dream sequence bit where you walk around
in the dark and can't find out where you walk.
Exactly. And it went on for 10 minutes and you'd be like,
you couldn't figure out your way out because you couldn't see.
Yeah.
You just had to take a blind. You had this one dot at the other end of the screen, and then you had to figure out how to get to it because you couldn't see the floor.
Exactly.
Yep.
But it was good storytelling though. Once again,
oh yeah,
some really good storytelling for single player games, which I do think is lacking somewhat at the moment. A really good kind of single player game that kind of takes you into that kind of thing. I'm trying to think of there's another game. What's the open world game where you play as the guy that's got the grappling hook?
I was just thinking of that. I know who you're talking about.
Just Cause.
Just Cause.
Yeah,
now, what was that? 3 or 4 was technically the best one where he was in there.
3.
There was cool, but you know what I mean? Got the overworldness.
And stuff. It was great.
Yeah, the second and third one are probably the best ones.
Which one? 2, did you say, John?
Second or third. The fourth one kind of sucked because I bought it pre-launch and it had some pretty bad issues, but 2 and 3 probably my favorite ones. Either one,
Yeah, I agree. Both of those was really strong games.
What would the group say to Homefront?
I thought it was boring.
Yeah, you talking about the Battlefield Homefront?
No, just Homefront.
Okay,
yeah, I think I played a demo of that or something.
There was a Battlefield 1 version where you run around as a cop.
Oh yeah, I know what you're on about. Yeah,
Okay.
know that.
Okay.
Yeah, fun.
Hey, how about
Yeah.
Sniper Elite?
Mm.
Because they can get repetitive after a while, but they're always good when you first boot them up. No matter what one you get,
Yeah,
you
they're
put them
pretty
on
fun.
for the first couple of hours. You're like, this is so much fun. It's only really when you start getting into like, if you're having an all night session after about 4, 5, 6 hours, I am a bit like, yeah, it's getting a bit
See,
boring now.
that's the one thing I didn't do with Sniper Elite. I didn't sit there and play 4 or 5 hours. I played maybe an hour or two, like you said, and then that's why it made it that much more fun. Especially if you get in there and start playing with your teammate. Now it's 2 in the storyline. Because normally it was just you and the character, but once you added your +1 in the game, now it's a little bit more different.
I've got another interesting game. Well, actually, there were multiples, but I can't remember how many. There was at least 2. There may have been 3. There might have even been more than that. I'm not sure. Did anyone remember Red Faction?
Yeah.
I know of it.
Mhm.
I've sadly never played it.
Because what I loved about that is it had fully destructible environments. So
It is the
you were
one thing I know that everyone
Funny
likes
you
about it.
mentioned that.
Yeah, you were on Mars or whatever, and it would give you, it would give you that kind of linear path that, right, you need to go that way. But to get that way, you could go whatever way you wanted. So you could literally just, you could blow a tunnel in a wall and just keep going in a tunnel and come out at the other end of where you needed to be.
Yeah, they were published by Volition and THQ, I believe.
I think you might be right. Yeah, I think you are. Yeah, I think you're right there, actually. THQ used to make some great games back in the day, to be fair.
THQ, man, had a good thing going for them until I don't know what all happened, but I'm not going to. But I mean, I
They got
used to love
acquired.
the THQ games. But I will tell you this. Hey, what about Cannon Fodder? You guys remember that at all?
Vaguely.
I've never played it.
It is called Cannon Fodder. It is a pixelated army game for PC.
I know the one.
Early years. I mean, it's like a 2D.
What about Kitty Cannon?
I got a game. I got a game, and it's a 2010, and I believe, and even some of the YouTube videos say it was ahead of its time. Mag.
Yeah, that's a good one because it was 256 players.
Yeah, it was ahead of its time, and then just too many. I mean, you were running in squads of 8.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I mean, I can remember playing it when it came out, and it was.
Yeah.
It was confusing to begin with, but you really have to utilize the teamwork in that game. If people aren't playing as a team, you can get flattened pretty quick.
Well, especially when you're playing that big map of 256.
Same way with the first Battlefield. The first Battlefield originally came out on freaking PC. Didn't come out on console until like about a year and a half later.
I'm surprised no one here's mentioned BioShock yet.
Oh, see that for me.
To me, that was too arcadey.
I liked the last BioShock was Infinite.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a really good game, and they're making a TV. They're making a Netflix making a TV series of it, aren't they?
No, if I can't get past the first objective on BioShock, I'm not going to tell you. All I can tell you is I uninstalled it. I mean, I liked the game, but I couldn't do it.
Yeah, BioShock Infinite was a fun game. I really enjoyed that. It's that kind of cyberpunk kind of look about it, and I thought it was interesting. I'm going to mention Uncharted as well because I think it deserves.
Yeah, Uncharted was there.
The Uncharted series was amazing, man. Just the visual
and the shooting mechanics, especially on the last game. The shooting mechanics were so good, so fluid. There's
not many games out there that make you think like Uncharted does. Like Uncharted, you actually have to stop and think when it comes down to those parts.
And very cinematic, like we were saying earlier. Really cinematic.
Very
when
cinematic.
you're playing those games, you are playing a movie. Effectively.
Like you played what is it? Uncharted, the very last one. Thieves End.
Thieves End, yeah.
Thieves End, yeah. I mean, dude, that story, like the story alone, blew me away. The whole thing with his brother, and I mean,
Oh, it
like,
was superb.
like,
It was
oh,
so good.
dude. So, I mean, you talk about immersive. Like, the Uncharted series did stories so very well. Mechanics, the cinematics, the puzzles, like, it had everything you wanted.
But the
in one game.
shooting was really satisfying as well.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah.
I'll run through my list quick because I've got it finally ready to go.
Go for it.
In no particular order. Again, no particular order here. MW2, MW3,
9,
COD Black Ops,
8,
Transformers War for Cybertron, the original, the first one.
6,
Like the first one that came out, not the sequel, which I regret not being able to play.
3.
Interesting
Far Cry
choice.
3. Far Cry 3.
Oh, we have
Far
not
Cry
mentioned
5.
Far Cry, have we?
And
Far Cry 5, though.
Here's why Far Cry 3 is on this list. And there's one simple answer. Boss Montenegro.
M16.
Boss is hands down the best villain in the series to date. He is better than Castillo, and he is better than the father. I am sorry.
Well,
Boss has not been
listen.
topped, period, in Far Cry.
Was he armed with an
Far Cry 5
M16?
is better.
That's the reason why you say that.
He had an M16.
Far Cry 5 is better.
Was it Far Cry 3 that you could end right at the beginning of the game if you used the?
Oh, you're talking about
Well, you
Breakpoint?
can do that. You can do that in 5 too. You can just not take the father in.
You talking about Breakpoint, right? You can just walk right over to Howard Airfield and end it.
But you know what?
Shut
I mean, I think we all did that.
I
Here-
did.
Yeah,
here's the question.
Some people did it by accident.
I did by
And-
accident.
Annie, if I could ask one question to all you guys, and I'll leave all you guys to answer. Okay. But if you had to pick that one game, that one shooter game that had everything in it that you like, the mechanics, cinematics, everything. I mean, if you had to pick just that one.
I can't. I'd have to put 3 together.
All right, I got one for you, Mountain.
All right. Y'all go ahead. I want to hear this. 'Cause I'm jotting this down on a piece of paper.
Splinter Cell Chaos Theory.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, it was a good game.
I would
That was my childhood right there.
I would
I
have
like
to
Double Agent.
I would
I
have
like
to put
Double
3 together. I would have to put 3 games together to make this one.
Go on then.
All right. So
Go ahead. I'm writing it down.
all right. So naturally, the third-person view of SOCOM, right? The storyline of Call of Duties and the destructible environment of Battlefield.
Which one?
I'm just referencing in general the destructible
Three or
environment. Just
Bad
in,
Company. Bad Company kind of.
I'm just
Bad
referencing.
Company 2.
Battlefield, Bad Company 2 would be that
Nah,
one.
Battlefield 3 was the best.
Destructible.
But I'm just referencing you couldn't hide behind anything in Battlefield. So
Mhm.
because
There
if
is no
you-
hardcover.
right, if you were hiding behind a brick wall, a tank would blow it.
C4. Nah, or an anti-tank mine or C4 or enough
Right.
grenades.
So using the third person view of SOCOM / Ghost Recon Current, then you would have the storyline of the Call of Duties, and a lot of those were really good. Except for
There's some that were really bad as well.
yeah, and there were some that were really bad, but their storyline is what I play for mainly in the Call of Duty series. And then you have the destructible environment of Battlefield. Now, whether it was 2, 3, 4, or 5, I could care less. But as long as the battlefield changed, you had.
So, all right then. So going back to Matt's question, then, which would you choose of those 3 if you could only play one?
That would be the perfect game to have those 3 combined.
But if you could only play one,
I would still
Which one?
I would
I
still
think it's like
I would probably still stick with SOCOM then.
yeah,
All right.
I can see that.
I'm gonna say MW3. Sorry, the original MW3.
Really,
about you,
MW3 over 2? I'm shocked.
Oh,
What about
sorry.
you, Sandy?
What's
what about
that?
you, Sandy?
You have to wait.
Ooh.
You have to wait.
Do you know what? Honestly,
Wait.
I think it would. If it was just one game, it'd be Wildlands.
Oh,
Yeah, I was
to be
between
fair,
that and MW3, to be honest. I was between that and MW3.
To be fair, you got to give respect. You got to give respect to that. Wildlands is still like can
It
you
is.
imagine? I always wish, like some people say, you wish you could. I remember seeing something a couple
Restarted.
of weeks ago where a guy turned around and said that he got there's a program on in the UK called Would I Lie to You? And you have to tell a lie, or you have to say something, and the panel has to work out whether it's a lie or not. And someone on there turned around and said that they were once hypnotized so to forget the Harry Potter films so they could watch them again like they'd never seen them. And as soon as I heard that, I thought, I wish I could do that with Wildlands and just play it like I'd never played it before. Because to me, he's still one of the greatest games ever made. I really do believe. I think it's
for
that
console.
Delete
It was one of
your
the first
character.
open world console games.
Delete your
he
character
means like
and then
going-
start over.
No.
Yeah, I can.
No,
I still
I know
know
why-
it all because I've
Hey,
played
hey,
it so many
hey,
times.
Okay,
he means
so-
like starting it over with fresh eyes and not knowing what's going to happen.
Yeah,
he
no.
means like that.
Wait about 2 months and don't touch it. Don't listen to anybody who says it, and
No,
then you
I've
go
tr-
into it.
I've tried it. We played it. I put so many hours into it. As I've mentioned before, I was off after having an operation. I couldn't move for nearly 3 months, so I played it all day,
Do you know
every
what?
day.
Do you know what? Do you know what? With like Wildlands, it's one of the ones. It's like your comfy jumper. Do you know what I mean? Like you just slip back into it, and it's just
when that music hits,
there.
when that guitar hits, and the music, you're like,
That music
Slide on in with
it's like a
with-
fine wine.
is really refreshing to hear. Trust me. I love that music. But I'll tell you, all right, so look. So we got Gazden. Gazden said, Splinter Cell Chaos Theory. We got Timberwolf. You said Modern Warfare 3.
Mhm.
Am I right?
Yeah, Marcus said SOCOM.
And 8up says SOCOM. Miscellaneous said Wildlands, Iron Mike, and Hotheads. Give us your picks, man. What'd you have to pick?
Rainbow Six Vegas 2.
Oh, you got to respect that.
Current, I'd say the game that I'm playing the most now is Insurgency.
Yeah, that's fair.
I was going to ask
that-
you about that. I was going to ask you about that, John, because I was going to say, where would you put? Because I know you play a hell of a lot of Insurgency, and I think Insurgency is a really good game. But
It is a
where
really good game. I expected more out of it, though.
where would you put that, John, in terms of that versus some of the legacy games that we've been talking about? Do you think it's as good as? Do you think it holds up to some of those games? Like, where would you kind of put it?
As far as the sound, I mean, to me, the sound in the game, you could have like a crappy game, but the sound be perfect or really good, and to me, that makes up for it. Like graphical wise, sound, directional sound, the intensity of it, how loud everything is, it just meshes. Even in Insurgency, you have like the character call outs, that they do, and the enemy call outs. It just in your teammates call outs, they're automatic, not like you talking. They mesh so well, like they perfected that somehow. So
Now, Andy,
granted, there's no story. If there was a storyline to it, like a campaign type thing, it would probably be number one on console, in my opinion, anyway.
Hey, Hotheads.
I agree with you.
What do you like most about the Insurgency Sandstorm? The one thing you had to, so you picked Insurgency as your number one pick, right? So what would be your the number one thing that draws you to that game? Is it mechanic? Is it?
Oh, you mean the head glitching, drop shotting, wall hacking bots,
how about the Nokia suicide bomb sound?
or the campers in PvP maybe?
No, I want to know because because everyone who's watching, they're going to have their picks too, right? So essentially, what I had my idea was having everybody in here giving out their picks and what they think what the best shooter is and their opinion. If they had to pick just one, and I was going to ask every single one of you guys what you liked about it and the reasons why, which you all gave. But I know, Hotheads, you said you had over 1,000 hours in Insurgency Sandstorm.
Already?
I just got
Damn.
over 1,000 rank, but my time, I think my total time's like over 34 days or something.
Damn, bro.
So,
Jeez.
He didn't play Breakpoint anymore. He gave that up.
Can I tell you something? The one thing that really appealed to me to Insurgency Sandstorm was the fact that when you modified your character And even when you was in the menu screen, or even if you was playing it, and even though you was in first person shooter, and if you was your friend, and you had turned around and see him put his gas mask on, you actually seen that damn gas mask get put on. But if you put it on your character when it's in its pouch, it's on its side. And the other thing I liked about it was if you change from a light kit on your chest rig to a medium to a heavy, you seen the difference in it. And if you went from a small pack to a medium pack to a large pack, you seen the difference in it. If you change your helmet from a non-AR to one that had an AR,
and don't forget,
you seen it.
Don't forget day versus night with no night vision.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The difference in between the MVGs is like phenomenal what they've done with it, but I wish that they have done a little bit better with it because there's some that really fucking sucked. You know,
I wish it didn't look like a PS2
that was
game.
really cool.
Yeah.
But the other thing was the customization that you did with your character, regardless if it was the multinational freaking force or whether it was the insurgency force. You seen the difference in each and every one of them, and you can change different things about it. Granted, it's a blanket, several different blankets, but you can rearrange out of those blankets to piece it to freaking together, and I did. And that's the thing I liked about it. And you can save those freaking setups, and you can name it the way you want it. I got like 4 freaking cover commanders. I got 1 freaking flip. I got 1 freaking rock and roll, and then I got skull fuck 1, skull fuck 2, and then freaking double neck. You know what I mean? But that right there in itself, what really intrigued me about that game that I had wished that freaking Breakpoint had went to, that I wish that freaking Wildlands had done, and wish that freaking Call of Duty's. I'm sorry, guys, but it freaking pisses me off of how they freaking put their freaking damn operators on there and how they got their freaking kits and everything. It's just, I just want to take my head and beat it up against the damn wall. But as far as like,
the kits are retarded. Yeah, they look absolutely
the other thing I liked about it was when you were saying about the call outs, but the thing that I liked about that game was the fact that you had different roles, and in those roles you had a certain amount of numbers, and you can fill in that team, how many breachers you want, and who's going to be your breachers, who's going to be your commander, who's going to be your radio forward observer or whatnot, or who's going to be your heavy. You know, that's the aspect that I liked it.
So
that's what I liked about it.
Mad, what's your choice then?
My choice overall would probably be, if I had to go back with if I had to choose mechanics and stealth strategy, I would have to go with, I would say probably Wildlands with that. I would have to go with Wildlands with that, because one of the things I liked about Wildlands was not only was the open world, but it gave you so many freedoms, so many ways to infiltrate. The movement seemed better. Granted, some of the gun sounded kind of janky to me a little bit. I mean not janky, but it didn't sound right. They didn't sound accurate. But I would say Wildlands above everything else, because you had the story, and the mechanics were great. You had the free will. You had, there were so many things about Wildlands that I believe everybody who's watching this video could actually agree with me on, that Wildlands had everything that Ubisoft should put into Breakpoint from day one, right? That's my pick. But more importantly, I want to kick it off and ask everybody else who's watching, what is your favorite? What is your favorite best shooter ever? And explain why.
Well,
You
Jay,
know,
we're going to be finishing in a minute, but J Rock has just jumped in, so I want to know what J Rock, what's your favorite shooter ever and why?
Okay, Andy, you're gonna have to bring me up to speed on this one because I just saw this.
Yeah, so basically we are discussing for a Christmas special what your favorite shooter is and why.
All right, so like, if I had to like choose like mechanics, open world things, I'd have to pick Wildlands because like that's the first time I can ever think of a open world tactical shooter. But if we're talking like all time round shooter, like some of the big ones like COD, Battlefield, Halo, stuff like that, I have to choose Battlefield 3.
Good choice. No, Battlefield.
It's
I
like,
prefer 4, but 3 is really good.
Because like I'll let you go with 3. Is that like 2011? It was a great year for gaming. You had wrapping up of Modern Warfare trilogy. Battlefield 3 was really good, coming off the heels of Bad Company 2. I don't know what else we had that year. I'm like drawing a blank on it. It's been over 10 years ago. Like, I remember my love of the Marine Corps came from Battlefield 3, playing as the U.S. forces, and you were actually my biggest thing with like the campaign was that like with a lot of the newer games is like you're playing as special forces, guys that don't exist on paper, secret squirrel type shit. In Battlefield 3, you play as like grunt, like boots on the ground, grunts, like general infantry guys. That's like a nice change of pace, and that's also like going on a tangent here. Like that's why I like the mission where you play the Shadow Company in MW2 is because you're not a super secret operator that could do everything. You're really just general population and military.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember. Like I can't remember last time a game did that because, like I said, it's mostly been transitioning to like you're part of an elite unit behind enemy lines, like you didn't exist type shit.
Delta Force, DevGru, 141, Ghost Recon. But yes, I agree.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
Andy,
I say yes as well.
Andy, big question is, what is yours?
Okay, so I've got some honorable mentions, and then I'll probably first of all, my honorable mentions because we've not mentioned this one yet tonight. I really enjoyed this because I love Black Hawk Down, but I did like the Black Hawk Down games that came out. They weren't actually called Black Hawk Down. What were they called?
There was one. There was one that was called Black Hawk Down.
That's right. They were. I really enjoyed those because I love the movie Black Hawk Down.
It's an amazing film.
Yeah, especially the later on missions where you were going back in and there was only 1 or 2 of you and you weren't with the rest of your guys. The using when you just had your car 15 and yeah, that was just fun. I really enjoyed those games. They did 2 of those.
Ranger.
Yeah, they were good. Another honourable mention, I would have to say, I've got to put this one in because we haven't mentioned this one either. And I know that Hothead, you said you got over 1,000 hours. I can actually beat that by a long way with this game. Rainbow Six Siege. I've got 4 months in that game. 4 months of total gaming time. The thing that turned me off of the game is they just catered far too much in the end, and still do, in my opinion, to the pro scene. It's just the whole game is just about what the pro players want, and the esports scene. The whole game has just become an esports thing, and with the first couple of years, it was not like that at all. Well, I didn't feel that it was like that at all. And you would get a new map, new operators every 3 months, and it was just amazing. And they would go back and rework maps that didn't work properly. Change them up. It was so good. The terrorist hunt was really hard, really ridiculously hard on the harder levels. Like one shot and you were dead. And I like that, non-revive kind of thing added to the challenge. That would be in my honourable mentions because it was a great game. Not so much anymore, but I used to love it. I have to say, I have to mention Time Splitters because they were some of the most fun I've ever had, especially playing with friends, like playing Capture the Bag and really stupid game modes like that. And running up into the on the subway station and running up, hitting the controls as your opponents run across the tracks and get hit by a train. Things like that. There's kind of stupid side of it, and the fact that we're getting a new one as well, which is so cool. But I would actually say the game that I want that would be my favorite game of all time has never been made yet, because it would probably be something along the lines of Battlefield 1942, but with G.I. Joe characters. If you could make that, would probably be already, if you could create that kind of Battlefield 1942 where you're just taking command posts, very much like the Battlefront games, which is another honorable mention. The first two original Battlefront games have to be an honorable mention. So many hours I put into those. In fact, I don't know if I've ever told you this. I played Battlefront 2 when it first came out. I bought it. I played it literally non-stop all day, stayed up all night, and then played it all day the next day. When I went to bed on the Sunday evening, I couldn't get the reticle out of my eyesight. Even in the dark, laying in bed, I couldn't get rid of it. And that night, I had a dream that the two of my friends, one of them being Bacon Soldier of the channel, and my other friend Ian, had been round and looked at the game. And when I went to sleep that night, I dreamt of a battlefield map where loads of Bacon Soldiers were fighting loads of my mate Ian, hundreds of them against each other. But
I think we've all had dreams like that.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
But I will
Especially
say, if I have to choose, I'm gonna choose. Well, it is literally a tear up between Wildlands and the original Modern Warfare 2. I think that it's between those two.
I'm surprised. I really thought you would have said SOCOM.
No, see, SOCOM, well, yeah, it's probably an honourable mention as well. SOCOM 1, 2, and 3 for a single player was some of the best gaming ever in terms of, I love the fact that your characters that you were with, your teammates would die. And it added to this, I don't want to lose my teammates, especially when you can't play with other people and that's all you've got, these AI teammates. And they were good as well, to be fair. But
They weren't just shooting at blank walls.
No, exactly. And they would get shot in the arm, and then you would see their health bar would just gradually keep going down as they were bleeding the more the mission went on. And it was just added that, like, I wish we had that now. That's my issue with the AI teammates in Wildlands and Breakpoint, is that they're just, they get shot, they go down, they always get picked up again pretty much almost all the time. There's just not that, I don't know, there's just not that element. You almost feel like they're almost invincible because they just get themselves up again and again and again and again.
They're not in immediate danger.
Yeah, and it takes you out of it a little bit. Though I still think the AI teammates were better in Wildlands than they are in Breakpoint. But some people say they're identical, but I don't think they are.
Well, the thing with Wildlands AI teammates is that they actually make comments like, I think Holt says, if you were a better shot, I wouldn't be fucking on the ground. And it's like, I think Weaver calls you an asshole in Breakpoint, that you get back up and then you start shooting again. Like, yeah, you got shot and you got downed, and I expect a lot more like expletives from that, because I can't personally speak for everyone, but I've heard that getting shot fucking hurts even with armor on. So you're not like walking up and like just being on your merry way with that. Like, you're like in pain the entire time with that. But yeah.
So yes, and there is different parts of it, like if it was a shrapnel or if it was a ricochet. That all depends as well. But with armor, like if it was direct armor on, and if it's rifle rated or pistol rated, whatever the caliber you hit with, some people don't even get phased by it. Like if they're running or they're adrenaline push and they're not even concerned about what's going on, there are people who just take rounds to their armor and don't give a shit.
I just want to add something before we head off. That this has been a bit of a different kind of podcast than we normally do, but we are actually thinking about doing a lot more podcasts about different things. And I mean, personally, I'm a big movie fan, and I'd like us to do, I'd like to do our favorite military movies and things like that.
13 hours.
we are looking
Favorite
at
military
doing
movie, man. Can
Black
we
Hawk
not do
Down
80?
all day long, all day long.
Can we not do? You know, Andy, I think it'd be a really nice gift for the new year to do 80s action movies to your audience. If you're looking for a recommendation from me,
I don't want to.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I think we do action movies. I don't want to just stick to the 80s because there's some good ones in the
True,
90s as
yeah.
well, and,
It's
you know,
been
I
some
don't
time
think
on,
I'm
but they're
gonna-
pretty
Have a
damn good.
question then.
I'm gonna say one that I know Mike will love, but I'm not a Marine fan. But Full Metal Jacket.
Thank you.
I finally
Bro.
watched it, and I think
You never seen it until now?
I watched it a few years ago, and I've wanted to see it my whole life. I finally got the chance. I will say I enjoyed it.
J-Rock.
I still think
enjoyed
the best Vietnam era movies for me still has to be
Forrest Gump.
Platoon or
Tropic
Hamburger
Thunder.
Hill.
No,
Or Hamburger
Tropic
Hill.
Thunder. Tropic Thunder.
Anyway, we're
That's,
not
not,
going to
that's
debate.
not even a Vietnam movie.
Yes, it is. It takes place in Vietnam.
Here's the
Oh,
thing.
that's a fucking Christmas movie. But Tropic Thunder is a fucking Vietnam movie.
Die Hard is
That's
a Christmas
true.
movie.
Here's the
You're
question.
goddamn right.
Here's an interesting point, right? As we're talking here at Christmas. Merry Christmas again, everyone, by the way.
Merry Christmas, Bullet Squad.
Here's the interesting thing, right? Why does everybody say that Die Hard is a Christmas movie, right? And I'm not hang on,
Christmas
hang on,
movie.
Hang on, one sec.
We're
Right,
going
one
to be in
sec.
for 3 hours.
This is a point that I had when I was very drunk, and I raised this point a few weeks ago. And you know that picture of me next to the castle that I posted on the Discord? Yeah, that was that night. So I had this same debate, but no one can answer it. So I'll have a think about this, and you can put it in the comments, whatever. So if Die Hard 1 is a Christmas movie, why is Die Hard 2 not a Christmas movie?
Because it didn't come out
Because-
during Christmas.
This movie in the
Yes,
first
it did though.
Yeah,
It's actually
the second one was on the airfield in the snow.
it's more Christmas, way more
Snow
Christmas.
doesn't make it.
Yeah, but it's at
being
Christmas
snow-
time as well. It's at Christmas.
Wait, what month? What month?
Andy.
Hold on. What month did it come out? What month?
Die
What do you
Hard
mean?
1
What
came.
month did it
Die
come out?
Hard 1
Die Hard
came on.
that came out in the summer.
Yeah, it came
Die
out.
Hard 1 came out in the summertime.
Right.
Die
But
Hard
was-
2.
was-
Die Hard 2. What month did Die Hard 2 come out?
I'm
That
pretty
came out
sure
in the
that came out
summertime.
December. I may be wrong, but
No, it came out.
then,
they
yeah, that's a
both-
Christmas. Okay, then that's a Christmas movie.
Guys,
Die
this
Hard-
is boy-
Die
this
Hard
boy.
2. Die Hard 2 came out July 2nd, 1990.
Oh, then that's not a
Okay.
Christmas movie. That's a
Then
summer
why
movie.
is Die Hard 1 a Christmas movie then?
Guys,
I'm
Did it
trying
come
to
out in
break
December?
this down, y'all. I have the
No,
answer.
it came out in the summer.
Then they
One-
none of
one
Christmas
line.
movies.
guys,
One line why it's a Christmas movie. Die Hard 1.
Even Bruce Willis, thanks to ADUP, because he ruined our childhood, said that
That was me.
Bruce Willis
It's me.
told everyone at the Golden Globes that Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. Bruce
Yeah,
Willis
No, and
himself.
I do this with my recruiter because I said this for my personal criterion, and yeah, you could argue that I'm biased with this, is that a Christmas movie must have Christmas imagery in it, and the theme of the story should be central to Christmas. Like, I gotta save Christmas. I gotta deliver all the presents. I gotta steal Christmas. Like,
He didn't
well,
say
yeah,
none of
oh,
that.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
he
it's
did
like-
say Yippee-ki-yay, which is like saying Merry Christmas, motherfucker. So
No, and here's another thing: is this is not military movies or this is an action movie, but I don't know why the fuck Frosty the Snowman's a Christmas movie. That bitch didn't have neither the
Frosty the
movie nor the song had anything of Christmas in it. It's just snow, and snow for me is like late December to like middle of March.
well, one of the John
But
Wick
you know
movies
what?
is-
You can pick holes in this theory on any film. You take a film like Home Alone, and that film could have happened regardless whether it was Christmas or not. It just happens to be Christmas when it takes
John
place.
Wick is a Christmas movie.
In Bruges is it? It's if anyone's not seen In Bruges, you've got to go and see it. It's one of the best.
Question
movies ever
is-
made.
I have to ask this question. Like, if we're gonna, I debated this question, and I told my parents this. Like this, if Die Hard's a Christmas movie, then you have to say that Princess Leia is a Disney princess because she's owned by
She
Disney
is.
now.
Yeah, she's owned by Disney.
And-
That's exactly what that is.
Yeah,
And she makes
And-
out with her brother. So that's even just reinsures the fact that she's a Disney princess.
yeah.
They could
Exactly.
just
Wait.
they
I
could
want to
argue
go back
that she
a second.
wasn't. Now she is.
I want to go back a
Right.
second and ask another question,
Go on.
right? And it was related to the whole 80s action movies. technically, with 80s action movies, would the Expendables not be covered in that?
Yes, they would.
Maybe, yeah.
They are made in the style. And actually,
Is it not
Sylvester
technically
Stallone has gone on record. He was going for that style with
No, hold on. Because by that definition, we're saying any movie that takes place in the 80s but filmed in current times is technically an 80s movie. When we say 80s, we mean filmed and produced and released in the 80s.
Yeah, that's why we're not going to do the 80s. We'll just do action movies.
I have actually another question. So, like, what happens if it's like a franchise that like lapses into the 80s? So, like, for example, Rocky 4.
Dear God, J-Rock.
Okay, wait. We're
Yeah,
we're veering way off.
Yeah,
We're trying to do another
So,
podcast
for
while we're
the-
trying to just shooters.
Anyway,
the original.
let's go back to the original
question.
because we're gonna end it now. Everyone's given their opinions. We want to know what your opinions are. Put them in the comments below. I personally would like to wish everyone on the Discord and all of the staff for Bullet Catcher Gaming, many of which are here this evening. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, of course. We've got some
Same
big
to all of you.
announcements coming in January, so stay tuned for those. Not sure the exact date yet. And I would like to say one thing, just on the serious note, just for a second, is that it is nearly a year and since we lost our very, very good friend Jeremy. So we'll be thinking about him at Christmas. Can't believe it's been nearly a year already, but rest in peace, buddy. We'll be thinking of you over Christmas. So thank you so much for everyone coming on. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and we are going to be doing more of these, especially until we get more Ghost Recon news. That we're going to pick up some different subjects and stuff like that because we just like talking shit. So. Thank you everyone for coming on. I do appreciate it. And if everyone's done, then Marcus, take us out, please.
This has been a Bullet Catcher Gaming Podcast. Join us next time for another exciting episode. Join us on Discord. The information is in the description. Comment, like, and subscribe. And Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Signing off.